Finally, question number 6. I've got an absolute value inequality. Now, remember, you cannot do anything before isolating this absolute value. So let me do that step by step. You're going to cross over operations in the inverse order of PEMDAS. So I'm going to start by crossing over that subtraction. I'm not crossing over the negative 10, I'm crossing over the subtraction of 10. I've got an addition, but it's inside the absolute value. So I'm going to take care of that later. Once I would have broken down the absolute value into two possible and necessary inequality. So anyway, 4 plus 10 is 14. Then I'm going to cross over not negative 2, but the multiplication by negative 2. The wording is essential for mathematical accuracy. And because I'm crossing over a multiplication by a negative number, and that's also true of a division by a negative number, I'm going to flip the sign. And 14 divided by negative 2 is negative 7. Now, what do you notice here? I've got an absolute value which is less than a negative number. You may be tempted to break it down, as I taught you, by first removing the bars and then flipping the inequality. I've got less than, so I'm going to write it down onto the other side and then changing the sign. Now here you end up having a contradiction though, right? If you read that correctly, you will end up having 7 less than negative 7, which is incorrect. That does not make sense. And if you finish to isolate the variable, so first I'm going to cross over this addition of 1. I'm going to have negative 8, and then I'm going to have positive 6. And then I'm going to cross over this multiplication by negative 2. So I'm going to flip the signs again. And I'm going to have 6 divided by negative 2 is negative 3. And negative 8 divided by negative 2 is positive 4. So once again, the end result, I end up having negative 3 greater than positive 4, which is absurd. So all of this is absurd. Why? So I intentionally gave you this little trap. Now, if you are clear in first isolating this absolute value before anything else, you will have full credit. If you do not fall into the trap that I laid for you, don't worry, it's not mean, it's part of my job to challenge you. Then the only conclusion would be that therefore there is no solution. In other words, X belongs to the empty set. You can write it like this, or you could just say no solution. You do not need to have both, just pick one of those two possibilities. Now, if you go directly, if you have this, you have full credit. If you skip this and you fall into the trap, anyway, you will not have credit. If you go there, but in addition to that, you conclude correctly that it's impossible for an absolute value, which is by definition positive, sits in a distance from 0. This cannot be negative, therefore it cannot be less than a negative number. If seeing that, you conclude correctly that there is no solution, then you will have some extra credit. Minor, but still. All right. Good luck.